Good afternoon, everybody. This light is very much not hitting me. I'm very colorful. Oh well. It is Monday. And we're getting back to it. Oh. Today is very much going to be zone 1 too. My legs don't have much more than that today. That's for sure. Oh. My legs are shot. But this will be good recovery as long as I stay zone 1 too. Be responsible and I'll be good. Kind of dropped me in an okay place too, it seems like. I wish it was a bigger group, but people mostly going around the pace I want to. Of course, it dropped me in on that little kicker up to the center of England. England? London. The center of England. Showing I'm truly familiar with London. I can't remember the name of the little kicker. I know it has a name, but for the life of me, I can't remember it. Nice, Cam. I don't really want to lose you guys, but I don't want to push too much, so can you come back? Thanks. There we go. That's better. I just want draft. Don't go too far. At least I'll get some warm up before the climb. That'll be nice. Figure once we get on the climb, it'll be a free-for-all. But not really surprising. Gotta get my body to settle back in. My body's at the stage of right on the edge of sweat. Hate it. Really need to fix this issue with the rocker panel where one side is inflated more than the other. I've been meaning to fix it for so long, but I always only ever put in one pump each side, which doesn't resolve it. Alright, we're up to 5. That's a pretty good group. We're sticking right around top end of zone 2. That's fine. Looks like we might pick up another and get to 6. I like that. Not really requiring me to do anything. It's a win. I can tell how fatigued my body is by how high the heart rate is for no effort. Almost 150 for 2 watts a kilo. Actually, not even. That's pretty bad. My whoop did warn me that I'm not remotely close to top form. My vitals have a flag on them. They're not bad, but it's definitely they were flagged as low recovery. So one of the main ones, my skin temp was high, and I'm like, that tracks. I went to bed less than 2 hours after my race, so. Actually, probably about 2 hours. So, not entirely surprising. Just gonna let all 5 of you pull. I'll be Santa, you be the reindeer. Yeah, that works for me. Oh, they were even lined up like it, too. Why is it that London is hit or miss on whether the formations work? Like, that was a beautiful double baseline for a bit. But it's also usually the place where it breaks. What is it about London? I'm sure it's probably Macquarie, too, because it's probably opposite side roads that are good or bad. Because usually if London's working, Macquarie's working. If London's broken, Macquarie's broken. Is this extra person going to catch on to us? Yeah, 3 watts a kilo? As long as they don't stick to that and they just easily get to us, that's fine. I'll take extra people. I realize I might need to raise my saddle slightly because I've swapped saddles so much. It's close. It'll only be like a millimeter or 2. But could be impactful. I just realized that, like, now with this saddle, I'm actually sitting planted, so maybe. Oh, it's kind of calibrated my saddle position based on the fact that I never sat planted. So maybe I need to readjust now that I'm sitting planted. Like, not fully. I know I could be further back. That's a new one. Thank you for the follow. Feels like a YouTube comment less than a Twitch comment. I don't know if I'd ever call my content seriously good. I published a video last night with no microphone. I've been streaming for like 9 years. Contentious. I pushed a little bit too much. I was distracted. I wasn't looking at my graph. Bad. Focus. No zone 4. Zone 2, 3 max. Be better, me. It's one of the few times I'm going to try to hold myself to it. I need a lighter day after yesterday. It's less than 24 hours after a race, so... Oh, the Team Tip 1 rider is actually getting closer. I don't know if I'd want to push that much before we get to a climb, though. I mean, maybe they really are fine, and this is like their average. And it looks like we're kind of closing up on the people ahead of us. This is the problem where it's like, you have some people that'll itch to try to catch the next group. Some that'll try to stay away from that. And then some people that want to catch you. And so it's this constant cat and mouse in groups like this. My goal is to just try to stay consistent. Kind of balance between everything. We're coming up to the climb anyways, so everything will sort itself out here. Whatever we put together will just explode. There's no chance everybody's going to do the same, or the climb at the same power. And I don't want to go into zone 3. So if that means I lose the group, it means I lose the group. It's fine. There needs to be more recovery than anything. And it's a good chance to do zone 2 for fat burn too, so. Really? I pop my draft and everybody gets behind me. Pumps. Oh well. Basically, as soon as we get out of the underground, it goes up, so. There will be no hiding shortly. There goes the Team Type 1 rider, so. Yeah, no, they're going to keep going 3. That just must be their pace. They spawned in just after me, so they're probably just trying to get through the field. That's what it looks like. Trying to kind of pick off people that they can. So we're going up this backwards. This is not a direction I go normally. This is normally the direction I descend. So, longer climb, shallower for the most part, but steeper descent. Right at the end is the hardest, though. It spikes pretty well at the end. So, yeah, we've got a little kick here, and then it just shallows off for a while. Thanks, Spooky. You gonna go, Miranda? Go free, I'm not chasing you, so you do you, I don't really care. This is a very low tempo ride for me. Oh, okay. Sure. That was weird. He's back down to nothing. No. I don't think any of those chants are valid right now. If you're proud to chant that right now, I have questions for you. I almost wish I could change mine to an upside down flag right now. Make me feel better about it. There we go, this is the bite. Could definitely go harder than this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to be good. Ideally, I make this the most uninteresting climb. As sad as that is. Hey look, we go straight. That's the finish. Just go up there. trying to remember where that finish, or that second bump is. Where there's that much elevation in London. Without going back up this. Can't think of anything without going up this. Even across the lower section, I don't think reaches that elevation. Unless there's a bypass. That I'm not thinking about? Honestly, can't remember. Not that it matters, I have to do it anyways, so. There's no shortcuts, so. Yep, it's a long loop around. But it gets reasonably shallow now. Well, I say now. As I look at the graph ahead of me, not what I'm on. Yeah, the 7% is not shallow. There we go. Now it's the hard part of keeping tempo on the shallow bit. This would be a bit of a challenging course for racing because it's like the Box Hill is consistent. This isn't. This pitches and rolls so much. Like this is flat. So trying to keep consistency. Be a good drill for somebody who's not used to climbing. $150K. Cool. Semi-irrelevant. Which will I max first? This or the time trial bike? I don't think we've actually started the climb yet. We're still technically on the lower slopes where we're not actually in the segment. Man, this is so rolling. I don't know the last time that I've done this. It's not a common way that I go on this course. Such a roundabout way. Like, I can see where we're going. But it's the only place with trees. Ugh. It's a mind-numbing climb. I'd actually rather do Box Hill. As weird as that is. There's just so little here. It's so bland. Box Hill at least has a lot of visual to it. Like when you're looking out, you can see where you're going because it's the only thing with trees. They need to fill in the center. Alright, so I said the most uninteresting climb. I meant based on power, not visual. Forgot how underwhelming this road was. When you're not ripping down it. We're almost to the steep part. This is slightly better. At least it's just tree covered now. Can't really see out. Well, at least my grab is consistent. I honestly don't recall the last time I've ridden this section. I do think I need to flatten the saddle slightly. I think it's tilted too far down. Nose down. I did last night about salts. Video's up. Today's recovery. Considering how deep I went yesterday, not terrible. Shockingly. How are you doing? I debated streaming it, but I didn't know if my head was gonna hold out, so I figured I'd just record it and sneak up on it. Worked out well. It's a worthwhile watch. Why today is only zone 2-3. Trying to avoid beyond that. There's the start. Oof. Yeah, that's fair. It's not that long ago. I ended up doing break fast crits and grits last night. Only real option at that time of night. That was like 20 hours ago. So I'm definitely not torched, but good opportunity to do zone 2-3 right now. That's what I need to do for the moment. So I need to lose some weight before time trial season. But I won't spoil the race. It was good though. Very surprised. Settle down. Back to 2, 2, 1. Bit of a bear of a climb. But at least it's more interesting. The lower portion is just so boring. Just slightly less mind-numbing. I always struggle to do these more tempo rides, but I know they're good for me. I feel like my body's probably low on sugar the way it's feeling. Ooh, shaky. So much of my body is like mentally holding back. Reminding myself, don't push. Reserve. We got stage 4A done today. 4B and C done Wednesday. See what we do on Saturday. I'm happy this last week I hit my weekly riding goal again. That was nice. I'd fallen off that a little bit. What is this playlist, YouTube? Skip. There we go. Probably drop that down in a moment again. Yeah, definitely steep.
Rave.
There's the banner. Not gonna be quick though. That's another 700 meters of good steep climbing.
Never really saw you coming until you turned me around.
Can tell that my upper core is not stabilized today. Kind of letting it go today though. Not keeping too much of an eye on it. I'm gonna start working on core soon. Probably next week we'll start core work. Start it in tandem with slowly building potential. Alright, last little bit. Well, actually, we haven't hit the flat side. That'll really mark halfway. Or not halfway. Last bit. English is hard. I'm not pushing 100% so my brain's checking out. Alright. Last push. Back into rhythm. Again, apologies if this is Entirely uninteresting, but that's the goal today. Zone 2-3 is not interesting. Underwhelmingly so as well. Yeah, if I plant myself perfectly on the saddle, I think the seat height is correct. They'll just be tilt. That's the final piece, I think. It's a terrible playlist. Oh boy. Seriously, what's with this 2000s pop EDM? Why? Huh. Most consistent climbing we do. Seeing as I have nobody to copy stop on, when we hit the downhill, I'm probably gonna go run to the bathroom. Looks like a consistent enough downhill. Gotta get down to like a 5%. Alright, Aberbeck. Hopefully he stays. Yay! It worked. Alright, I don't normally watch viewers, but what the heck? I leave and I get more viewers. What is... What is wrong with this? I love that the person behind me has been pedaling the whole time and has not gained on me at all. I'm amused. All right. One more bump. And we climb again for a bit. So I'm going to assume we're coming down this. By the looks of it. Okay. I see. Yeah, that's a. All right. Little bump, little down, big bump. Feels oddly familiar. People ahead of me chilling. What are they up to? They're just because it flattened. I'm guessing that they're going to push as soon as they get on the uphill again. It's been very lonely. Been pretty much solo than most of the time. Probably the loneliest tour de Zwift I've done. Which isn't great. I don't feel like I've been this consistently alone in the A stages. I feel like it might be time for them to look at pace partners to kind of keep groups. Either so you have something to spawn into, or just at least something to ride with. Because there's too few people and too many bumps for groups to separate on. Song made me think of Ocean's 13? Maybe? Ocean's 12? I don't know. Hey. Almost in the last kicker. I say kicker, but it's more than a kicker. Kicker's like 1 to 3 minutes. It's definitely going to constitute more than a kicker. Yeah, so much of this back section of London is unfamiliar to me. Oh, is this a different version of Box Hill? Huh. Now I see where we are. We're approaching Box Hill from the other side, aren't we? Right? I think so, yeah. So there's just no marker because we technically bypass the section of the marker. That's right before the turn, I think. What is this playlist, YouTube? Oh my god. This is at least a better climb. A little bit more covered so you can't see nothing. Because the other climb, you could just see out to nothingness. So a little bit more mentally appealing. Trying to keep my tempo. The mind numb continues. Right over a third, almost halfway up. No, only a third. Yay! Okay, I'm happy with that. Alright. Yes, okay. Cool. I'm happy. That made it worth it. Those things are cool. Would have been nice to have them for yesterday's race, but oh well. Now I'm to keep myself in check and not try to trigger them. Easier said than done. Real switchback? Not that there's a ton of this fine. It's only like 3. Last major segment. all easy after this. Little push. Almost there. I was hoping I might get close to those two for draft. But I don't want to push it both 2 and 3. So I'm going to stalemate. Might as well burn my power up. A feather for that little bump would be nice. Or a draft boost. Literally useless when you're alone. Thanks, Zwift. Appreciate it. We might push here just to make contact. Got at least one. I was hoping they were together. What? No. Oh well. Downhill it is. Free speed. Am I heavier than Stan? No. At least not a meaningful amount. Do appear to be heavier than Gerber. Thanks. You're not done yet. Definitely heavier than Gerben. I might actually be heavier than Stansberry. So I'm closing the gap slightly. When the hill ends will be a big tell, because of how much momentum I keep. Just about now. Alright. Down through the subway, up the stairs, across the bridge, and that's it. Okay. I hate these escalators. I don't know which is worse anymore, these or New York. New York at least gives you a boost. Wow, those quicksand are just sinking into them. Thanks, Brad. Back to the start. Now just one. Graphics exactly what I was hoping for. Split between 2 and 3. Perfect. Hey, Shep. Caught me right at the end. Hell no. I raced last night. Should be happy I'm here. I'm only doing this because I need to get this one done. This is the long one for this week. About me or about something else? Maybe. I'm also not mentally functioning right now, so... Run this. There we go. Stage 4 done. That is 10 stages done. Yay. I have 8 more stages to do. Rest of this week is easy. Next week, one of them's gonna suck. Still have time. You can do them on demand. I'm doing the ultimate challenge so I can try to get all the XP. I've gained over a level already out of the Tour de Zwift, I believe. I'll be at least 94 when I'm done. Yeah, which means that they're going to bump the level soon, because I'm never allowed to get max level. That's how it goes. Let me see. I do want to see... Now, what does this challenge look like? Oh, yeah, a lot. Ugh, that's going to take forever. At least I have lightning socks now, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to use and abuse those too much. Probably get myself caught out in races, because I'm going to give myself away. But, oh well. Worth it. Yeah, it's the lightning socks. Here, watch my feet. That is what you get. You leave a lightning trail, basically. Except it's a dead giveaway, kind of like fire sucks. Because it means you're attacking. So they're not very race-oriented. If those trigger, it means you're putting in an effort. Pretty much. And then there's a second level, which also gives you wind effects. So it looks like you're cutting through the air. But I'm only, like, I'm not even a third of the way to that, so. And it took me a long time to get these. It's probably a couple hundred hours to make that happen. They are not easy. So. I mean, that's basically the burrito, and everybody hates it. Nobody likes the breakaway burrito. It is the most hated power-up, I believe. Basically, it means that they get 0 draft off of you. And it sucks for everybody. I hate races with burritos. Because everybody uses them, and it just goes ridiculous. But yeah, that basically does exist. And it's universally hated. Alright. Take a look at the graph. Pretty much exactly what I wanted. It kind of slowly increased, which wasn't entirely intentional, but kind of a side effect. As the body warms in and says, the heck with the day before. I wonder what caused that. I mean, I won't lie, as soon as I got them, I tried them out, so you're not alone. Immediately after I got them. You have to. You can't get something like that and not test them out. Alright, so I did do... Oh. So, Greatest London Flat and London 8 are the 2 left to do. And then Tor Fire and Ice Blip Heights. Oh, I forgot this one sucks too. Oh, that's gonna suck. These 2 suck. I love that it says this is an hour and 45 minutes. That's a lie. I don't... Well, maybe. I don't know. I'll try to do it in the stream. I don't know. And then this one will be pretty easy. I'm not happy about it, but it'll be easy. And... got the first XP. I'll get this at the end of the week. This at the end. No, this will be at the next week. And then we'll get that. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. I should be back Wednesday to get those last 2 stages for the week. They're not gonna be too bad. This week's aren't that bad. Next week's are gonna be miserable. I'm not excited about next week's. But we'll get them done. At this point, we're too deep into the Ultimate Challenge to not finish, so... appreciate everybody for joining, and I will be back on Wednesday, and then we'll see whatever the heck we're gonna do on Saturday. I don't know yet. But have a good rest of your day, and I will see you Wednesday. Bye.
Hello there.